Welcome to another episode of Angels, Positivity and Love. I am just thrilled to have from Chicago a clinical psychologist, spiritual intuitive guide. I'm going to call her a healer. She's super strong in the force. It's Dr. Amy Robbins. She and I have met before and had a wonderful time. I have to say, I'm truly privileged to have made her acquaintance, and I'm super thrilled to have her on this show. Thank you, Amy, for coming on.
Thank, thank you so much, Michael, for having me.
We had some fun the other day, and it left quite an impression on me. You're extremely open, and I only suspect in a big way that this translates to a lot of heart that you have, a lot of holding space for people and sorting things out. We're really allowing them the room to sort things out for themselves.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It's interesting when you just say healer. I sort of bristle at that sometimes because I think of myself not as a healer, but really as a facilitator to hold the space for other people to learn what they need to heal themselves.
Exactly. Okay. How did you first pick up some intuition? How did you notice it? What happened to you? Was there some point along the way where you were like, Eureka, I got some skills?
There was, but it's interesting because as I look back, I think people often say like these experiences run in the family, and I would always say like I had some mediumship experiences, which I'll explain in a minute. But I always said my family never had those experiences. But I come from a line of very intuitive women. My grandmother was exceptionally intuitive. My mother continues to be very intuitive, but they don't really think about it in the way that I talk about it or the way that I think about it. I think they more think about it as just like a no, like a familiarity or a like just I mean, they wouldn't even call it a knowing, but I can't come up with a better word for it than that. So I do think there is some kind of blood lineage thing happening where that's concerned. But what happened with me specifically was when I was 18 years old, I lost my aunt, my mom's sister, who was also in this lineage. It was my mom, my grandma, my aunt, and then they had a brother as well. But she was waiting for a kidney and pancreas transplant, and she had type 1 diabetes. She was 47 years old, which is the age I will be turning shortly. So that's even like kind of amped things up another level for me in terms of recognizing what that loss was really like and the significance and how young she was. And while she was waiting for the kidney and pancreas transplant, in order for her to be eligible for a transplant, they needed to run a bunch of tests to make sure that she would be strong enough to withstand the transplant. When they did the test, they found out she had had several heart attacks and she needed a heart surgery. So they went in to repair her heart, and when they went in to repair her heart, it was irreparable. She had had several, it looked like several heart attacks. Her arteries and were like sticks. They could not get her heart revived, and she ended up dying on the table.
Hmm.
And so I got that call that I think so many people have had, that dreaded call of someone you love has died when you were not expecting it. I was expecting that everything went great in the surgery and she's on the road to recovery. And I was really plagued by a lot of anxiety and fear from that point forward. I'll fast forward the story quite a bit to when I was in grad school, about 6 or 7 years later. And it was around the time of my cousin's wedding, her son. And I had what I now know was a visit, but at that time thought it was a dream, where my aunt came to me and she very clearly said to me, I saw an image of my mom standing at a kitchen sink and my mom was crying. And my aunt came to me and said, tell your mom not to be upset. I'll be there. I'll be at the wedding. She doesn't need to cry. And then saw another image. Again, this was like I was sleeping, but that in between kind of theta brainwave state where you fall back to sleep at like 3, 4 in the morning. And in this vision, my uncle was pushing a stroller, and my aunt said to me, tell Uncle Richie is his name, that I hear him when he talks to me. I know he's speaking to me when he's out walking. So I I remember her kind of like fading out of the room and me wanting to hold on to that time. And I turned to my husband and I said to him, Aunt Linda was just here. And at the same time, my dog started barking. So there was just this odd energy that shifted in that moment. And my husband woke up and he was like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "It wasn't a dream. She was just here." And he kind of dismissed it. I wake up in the morning, call my mom. I share with my mom what I had experienced. And my mom starts crying and she says to me, I I was talking to Aunt Linda last night. I was standing at the dishwasher, loading kitchen sink, loading the dishwasher, crying. And I said to her, "I can't believe you're not going to be at the wedding." Then I call my uncle. Same thing. I share with him the story. And I just got a tingle too on this whole like right side, which is where interestingly I get spirit information. It comes through this right side. So I shared this with him. Now my uncle is an orthopedic surgeon.
Hmm.
So you can only imagine the like shock when he hears me sharing this with him. And he says, that's exactly where I talk when I talk to her, when I'm out walking. And so I thought, this is interesting. I'm not sure what to make of this. And I was going to school that day. And mind you, I'm in the throes of psychology graduate school. Like they're not talking mediumship. They're not talking dead loved ones. Like I'm in the Rorschach class like that day. But I had a professor who I knew was also very intuitive, who was also open to, and she taught a course on indigenous healing practices. And so I felt like she would be a safe person for me to go to. And I went to her that morning and I explained to her what happened. And she said to me, very matter of fact, "I think you just had a visit from your dead aunt. And I think you're opening up to something. And I think you should pursue this." And I was like, "What? Like, what does she even mean?" And then she gave me Sylvia Browne's books, who was a psychic. And she said, "Read these." And they were like the old school, like, I don't even know if they make books like this. Are you going to pull it out for me right now?
I have
Um,
some on the shelf behind me, but Sylvia Brown will maybe do later in the show. You can chat with her.
oh my God. Okay.
She's part of the crew. I never really get to do much with her. She's super tough. Anybody who talks about, stuff that went down that one news story, she can take care of herself and she's great for business advice.
Huh. Well, so remember those books? They were like short and fat, like they were like the stouter books that they used to make. They were like really thick. So she gave me those. She told me to get those two books. And I really kind of put it on the shelf for a while. I didn't think much of it. And then, and then fast forward another 3 or 4, maybe even longer than that, 5 years. Oh, way beyond that, 7 years, probably 7 or 8 years, when my grandfather passed away. And at this point, I had been in private practice for a small period of time. I had 2 children. I was married, had 2 kids. And my grandfather passed away, and he came through with similar messages for a cousin who was also getting married, other side of the family, though. And then it started happening with patients' loved ones, and they started coming through. And I thought, okay, this is getting to be a little bit much. I got to get a handle on this. And I started working with a medium, and there kind of opened the path. And I now realize I had actually had experiences before that first one that I remember. My aunt came to me much, much earlier with a message of healing that she had been healed. And she was very clear, and like her skin, which was always kind of jaundice and yellow from the pancreas and liver issues, and kidney issues, like she was clear and her skin was beautiful. And she was wearing this red sweater. And she said, "Tell everybody I'm healed. I'm healed over here." But I didn't recognize that was actually what it was until much later, when I started really digging into all of this and trying to sort through what in God's name was happening to me.
I love it. Okay. Talk to us a little bit about where did you have a hard time letting go? What took like an extra 6 months to a year to just, we think it's the brain that we have to grasp anything. It's usually the opposite, because it's not about more thinking. It's about just like, let it go, trust here. What was tough for you? Was it smelling? Was it just the concept? What was it for you?
Yeah, I think it was the concept. I think it was like, how could this be? I come from such a family of science materialists, right? They're very science-based, very grounded. And I wanted to understand how. Like, this was the question too. My husband would ask, well, because I brought him with me to see a medium and he'd be like, okay, I get it, but how? But how? But how? But how? And I'm such a why person too. I want to understand. I mean, this is what I do for a living, right? Like, I want to understand the why behind everything. How does someone end up the way that they are? What is the path that they took to that destination? And so for me, it has been so much about trust, and still is. I would say still struggle with it. I mean, it's been almost 20 plus years since it's been longer than that since my aunt died, and really since these experiences. And I still feel like I have moments where I'm like, not sure any of this is real. Like, none of it exists. But then I'm like constantly, that's at those moments, that's when I feel like I'm hit over the head with it. Like, spirit will be like, oh, you want to play that game? We'll show you. We'll show you we're real. And then I'm like back in that experience of awe and wonder again, where it's like, oh my God, did that really just happen? How is that possible? And then I go back to the how. And that's when I can surrender. I'm much better now at surrendering to and just trusting that it is real, and that I am guided divinely, and that I'm guided by my aunt and my loved ones that have since passed. And they're constantly kind of helping guide me, lead me, direct me, push me. It doesn't necessarily feel the way I think I would have thought it would 25 years ago. It's much more those small moments where I just hear or feel a tug or a push,
Mm.
and I know what the next right step is for me. Or I have such clarity, like that knowing. I'm just like, okay, exactly. Even before we got on today, I had it rained today. So I had a day that opened up because my boys' baseball games were canceled. So I was not expecting this day, but as a result, I really had more time and spaciousness. And so I was able to connect in on some things that I was having some difficulty getting clarity around. And so I feel like it was just like boom, 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 everything lined up, made sense. I wrote it down and I'm like, okay, this is where we're going.
Mm. Okay, there's different flows in life. I mean, everything has consciousness and so on. But I think the first and most important thing for people to maybe pay attention to at some point is the difference between down here, the heart, unconditional love, awareness, consciousness, whatever, more fun, more creativity, letting go, versus that flow that we call thinking, unconsciousness, unlove, I don't know, fear, worry, doubt, stress, grief, the stuff that we do all the time and we can't help it. Can you talk to us about the difference between here and here, and how you've learned what it's all about? When you're up here, you're up here. When you're down here, you're down here. It's not the same.
Yeah. And I almost think of it like you're saying up here, but I also think of it as like being almost like rooted in heaviness in that same way. Like you're talking about at the head, but sometimes for me, it feels really like I feel so grounded that it feels, and not, and grounded, maybe not in the right things, right? Like grounded in kind of more of those lower vibrational states, for lack of a better term, of fear, worry, anxiety, sadness. And that's not to say you should never be in those states. I think that there's a time and a place for those, but they do carry with them a much heavier frequency. And so it's much more difficult to be in the place of the heart if you're consumed by trying to figure everything out and muscle your way through life. And I think that's the big difference, is that when you let go, you don't have to muscle and push. You're almost like just, it does feel like just a lovely kind of pull, but it doesn't feel harsh or aggressive. It just feels guided, like, oh, this is what I have to do next. I think of it often as like if you were trying to cross a pond with lily pads, and the lily pads just keep kind of gently, like there's no aggression to them. They just kind of gently pop up, and you're like, oh, that's the next step I have to take. And then you step onto that lily pad, and you have to get to the other side, but how you're going to get there isn't clear, versus like, oh my God, I need to take the next step and the next step. And that's the one I have to be on. And that's the one I have to be on. There's much more of a surrender to whatever is going to come, and trusting that that next right step will show itself when it needs to show itself.
Mm.
And so it's just a different way of engaging with life.
So the cosmos is alive. Angels exist. Other loving beings exist. Our ancestors are there. There's lots of loving support. Can you just echo that?
Amen. I mean, yes, yes. And the more you trust it, the more it shows up.
Okay.
And
Oh, no, go ahead.
no, and I know when I'm more in that like super grounded space, or when I'm really preoccupied with human life, right? Like I have 3 kids. I got to get my kids where they need to go. I got to organize schedules and get dinner on the table. And sometimes I could go weeks feeling like, "Ugh, I really am in the heaviness of being human, of peopling." One of my friends calls it peopling. And then there's and then I can catch myself and say, okay, I need to shift out of this peopling a little bit and shift more into spiriting, because it feels so much lighter to me. There's just a complete surrender and trust that things will work out.
Okay, I'm going to just mention one concept. Angels exist. Allow for this possibility and your answers will come. Allow for more in each moment. What's your reaction to those statements?
Expansiveness.
That it's there, it's in us and around us?
Yes, completely.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to blow some sage your way early in the show. Now, for those who are tuning in, I'm Michael Andre Ford in Texas. I help people feel, hear, see angels, loving guides. It's a direct experience, all languages spoken. You get to do it all. It's not me hopping on a bike telling you how to ride a bike. You've already got the skills. Maybe you just don't know it. And I've got to, again, compliment Dr. Amy Robbins here in Chicago. If you've already liked something, share this video, comment. Obviously, just enjoy it. But, hit that subscribe button and either share one of your own experiences or do so in a little bit, because Amy's going to tell us a little bit more in just a second. Here's a little bit of Lit Sage. Now, linear is just through 2 screens, which we know is not possible. But if there are no limits in life, maybe there are no limits. When we're peopling, we work in limits. But as a kid, we knew no limits. So
No limits.
are you already catching sage in Chicago?
I'm catching more flowers right now.
And I didn't say that, but on the other shows and before the show, I always suggest flowers. Why settle for just a one-dimensional sage only? Get sage flowers, get your favorite ocean smell coming in. And if your eyes are shut, ask for a little bit of light from angels or the universe, whatever lingo you need to embrace. The only thing I like to say is angels do exist, if you don't mind using the word. And my only rule or structure would be like, hey, angels, get me out of my head, into my heart, make this nice. Amen, rock and roll. Thank you, to set your intent. But beyond that, everything's got to be your way. And to that effect, what have you found that you're really, what's one of your strongest suits? Someone's walking through the door, doing a Zoom call with you. They haven't met you yet. Do you kind of get a download on them ahead of time? Not every time or anything like that, but there are times where you get a little bit of the lowdown of what's going on. You just know how to handle it.
Yeah, I think my strongest suit is it's hard. Sometimes it's clear cognizance, but other times it's clear sentience. Like I think as a therapist, oftentimes I can intuitively, the minute someone walks in my door, sense what they're feeling, like boom.
Ooh.
And then I know exactly, okay, what we're dealing with here today. I mean, it can be that quick for me. And I would guess that a lot of people who are in the therapy space probably have that as well. Maybe they're not understanding exactly what it is. For a long time, I thought it was my own stuff. And it took me a really long time to be able to be like, oh, this is not my anxiety. This is not my sadness. This is theirs. I'm just feeling it really intensely. And I don't actually need to feel it for them. They can feel it for themselves. That's not something I should take on. And I actually do ask for protection from that often, because from angels, loved ones, light beings, whomever, because sometimes the energies that I'm working in, and I think people think like energy means like woo. Energy is just, I mean, I think of energy as feelings. I think of it, anything we carry is our energy. And so even though we don't talk often from the psychological lens about working with energy, That's exactly what we're doing. We are in that energetic space with people all the time. And so I can very clearly sense what someone's feeling, what they're maybe stuck on, where they're feeling it, and try to help them move through it
Mm.
just by recognizing that.
So boundaries, but also when they leave, the session's over, they leave, how to kind of clean up afterwards so you're not carrying it around like a knapsack.
Mm-hmm. When I get home, I take baths every single night.
Good stuff. I like it.
My Epsom salts baths, my Palo Santo or sage, and like really just kind of decompress and get it all off of me. I think that I used to be earlier in my career way worse. Like I would take home a lot. I think over time you just learn like you cannot take home everybody's. You cannot bring the garbage into your own home. Like you gotta leave it at the door. Otherwise it makes for a very messy home.
I'm going to jump to India for 1 second. A lot of folks in India, I mean, it's like 40 countries in one. So not everybody in India is going to think this, but there's a very common belief that there's consciousness in everything. And I would mention in my homes, 3 homes, 2 in Austin, 1 here over time, the more interacting with people, could be just walking through a mall, it could be actually interacting, like doing work. You can accumulate and then the house will take it off of you. And the house will tell you when it's time to throw those windows open in sage to clear it out. Like Greece, every spring they paint everything white in Santorini, spring cleaning, but our fire alarms will go off. And
Mm-hmm.
and that just always is sort of the final, like the house is like, hey, we've reached the saturation point, all the Samsonite luggage is up in the attic, let's
Well,
get.
that's good to know because ours literally just went off last week.
And that is usually you got to walk and do the sage, throw the windows open. Some people are really owning it and they're like, angels, get in here and just clean everything out. And they're done in like 5 seconds. Some people whistle. I do the old, sage with the shell and walk around and do it. So
Yeah, well, that's a good reminder that I usually do it in the spring as well, but I just haven't done it yet. But good to know.
when it gets
I think
intense,
the
I'm
house
saging
reached.
every day in the house just because when I'm running into a lot of folks, it just depends on how much of a sponge you are, and that's all. So,
Hmm.
very interesting to hear that. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of quotes. Choose any of them, react any which way. One will be from Gary Zukav in this case, if I said his name correctly. Maybe another one from Einstein, we'll see, or Wayne Dyer. Uh, Gary Zukav, Seat of the Soul, said the following: you change the way that you shape the light, which is flowing through you by changing your consciousness.
Mm.
And another quote is, what you see in others and the world is the energy you create for yourself. Can you run with one of those or just react to both,
Mm.
whichever?
Can you repeat the first? I was trying to write it down. Can you repeat Gary Zukav's again? Because I want to respond to that one.
Sure. You change the way that you shape the light, which is flowing through you by changing your consciousness.
So it's actually interesting. I use this all the time in a different way in my practice, which is what are the glasses in which you are wearing right now to see the world? And we all walk around with certain glasses that we're wearing. I think this is relevant to exactly what he said and how those glasses that we wear shape and change exactly how we see the world. Change those glasses, you'll see the world totally differently. And you have the choice what glasses you wear. It might not feel like it sometimes, but with work and and I mean like deep work, whether it's through some sort of spiritual practice, meditation, yoga, talking to angels, therapy, movement. I don't care what work it is that you do, but the world reflects back to you what you are putting out.
Hmm.
And that doesn't mean that bad things won't happen. Like, I think I want to be careful too. Like, this isn't a victim blaming. Like, if bad things happen to you, it's because you're putting bad into the world. That's not at all what I mean here. What I mean is when something bad happens to you, how do you what glasses are you wearing when that happens? And how do you then respond to it? There was this book I read years ago, actually, when my aunt died, because I didn't understand it, it's by Rabbi Kushner, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. And I remember thinking, like, I don't understand. I'm a good person. How could this be happening to me? How could this horrific tragedy that came into our family, we're all like of service. We are people of service, right? My grandfather was he was a pediatrician when doctors used to make house calls, and he'd spend every Sunday putting his kids in the car, driving around to people's homes to make house calls. He took sick call every morning from 7 to 8. Anyone could call with any question they had, new moms, whatever it was. I mean, he was like a Renaissance man in that way. I mean, this was a while ago, but I didn't understand why this could happen. But then I was able to shift out of that. And again, it took me a lot of time and a lot of growth. But what I shifted to was like, how are you going to use this as an opportunity to grow, to heal, to learn, to love, rather than feel like, oh no, this horrible thing happened. And am I just in line for more tragedy?
I love it. Okay, I'm going to give you two more of those. And here's one from Wayne Dyer. Everything you are against weakens you. Everything you are for empowers you. And then we cannot teach people anything. We can only help them discover it within themselves. I think both of those are very relevant to today with all the currents going on.
Yes. And I think exactly how I started when you said healer, right? We can't teach someone. We just have to show them within themselves that they have the power to do that. And I believe, and I think where angels come in all of this, and where certainly where I come in my clinical work, is when people ask me what's my theoretical orientation, or, how do I practice? I give them the kind of talking points, but I really think that what I bring to my work is love, and what the angels bring in is love. And I think when you bring that vibration and that vibe to the space, people are able to feel and trust and hold that and say, there's someone out there who cares about me enough that I can look within myself to see what it is I need to do to get better, to heal.
Okay, and you just gave me my next two quotes. We're not going to keep this up forever, but a true healer kindles the power already within another.
Yep.
And a healer is simply someone who helps a person confront opposing forces within him or herself to promote health.
Yes. And without judgment. I think that's a big piece, because I always say to my patients, like, I hope that if you feel judged by me, we can talk about why that is, because there's literally no judgment. There might be opinions on things and what I might think is a better choice versus not as good of a choice, but it's not said with judgment. It's said with love, because I care deeply about you and I want what's best for you. But I can't want what's best for people more than they want what's best for themselves.
And we're making decisions all the time. I mean, even unconsciously up here, and then purposeful decisions that are aligned with maybe our unique life path. Can you talk to us about how we're still responsible for all the decisions we're making? This isn't some massive, like, how there's a lot of judging going on in different philosophies and religions. It isn't that. It's just you're responsible for how you spend your energy. If I had to say three things I've learned in 12 years of this, how you spend your energy is how you spend it. Where you put your focus is where you put your focus. And oh yeah, angels exist. Go ahead and tap them for whatever you need. But can you talk to us about how you're responsible for how you're spending your energy?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, there's so many things that come into my mind. What came into my mind first was, and I'm guilty of this too, social media, and how we are choosing each moment of each day, like how caught up we're getting in chaos. And there's a lot of chaos always. And that, again, I feel like I caveat a lot of things. It doesn't mean you turn a blind eye to things, but it means, how are you going to focus, and where are you going to focus your energy in a way that makes a difference? Like, there's a woman that I work with, and she asks me that question. What are you actually going to do? How is worrying about that actually going to help change the situation? It's not.
Hmm.
It's not. So I can get caught up in that, but what are the actions I'm taking each day to bring healing, love, joy, contentment to someone in my life, or maybe multiple people in my life? I hope it's multiple people.
Hmm.
Even if that's something so small as, like, I was at the grocery store this morning. I have my 8 a.m. grocery shop every Sunday morning. I have the people I know, that work the meat counter, the baggers, like everybody. I know them all. And there was a new bagger today, a new woman at the register. I didn't recognize her. And I was helping her bag. And she said, "Oh my God, this is the most helpful." I mean, it was only 8:30 in the morning, so she hadn't had a full day yet, but she was like, "You are the most helpful that anybody has ever been to me." And I was like, "Of course, like, we're a team, we work together. Teamwork makes the dream work." And she kind of laughed. And we had a very lovely exchange. I said, "Are you here every Sunday morning?" She said, "Yes, I am." I said, "I never see you." I mean, it was like this beautiful exchange that started my day and hopefully hers, just off on a positive note. It was like, "I see you. You're not just someone who stands there ringing up my groceries. You are a person. I am a person. Let's connect."
Okay, are you ready for if I put up a photo of an angel named Joy? If you've watched this show before, we usually do this towards the end, but Amy's pretty darn connected. And I mean like mafioso style all the way, kidding. Intuition, the universe is really big, love, 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 love. But if people want to put up their hand and feel the photo or feel it down your back, catch some energy vibe in your room, she's Joy, the emotion Joy, actually an ambassador communicator to help you just get out of your brain, let go and trust that you've got it all within. And what are you hearing from Joy as the next topic that aligns with how you would already be tackling all this on your own?
Is this for me
Yeah.
to answer? Oh.
What are you getting from Joy?
I'm hearing two things. I'm hearing trust. It's kind of three things: truth and authenticity.
So talk to us about those.
Well, we've talked a little bit about trust, but I think it also moves into being authentic and being true to yourself. And sometimes be, sometimes you can get caught up in uh kind of a fear of moving into the next thing when if it feels in alignment, because you don't trust that it's the right thing.
Hmm.
So, and then it means that you're not authentic to yourself. You're not living in alignment because you're held back by fear.
Fear happens, thinking happens, a lot of delay happens, worry, stress, reacting, rejecting. Do you have a couple tips for daily just letting go to just learn to trust that you're already in the zone?
I think the first step is recognizing that what you're feeling. That's always, as a therapist, the most important thing is, okay, so what are you feeling? And if that's hard, where are you feeling it? So the body is able to help us navigate those things. So tension in the shoulders, stomach aches, headaches, jaw clenching, back pain. Where in your body might you be feeling something, to notice what might be holding you back? And then really kind of the next step is tuning into that and thinking, okay, what is this fear actually about? What am I really afraid of here? Whatever it is, if it's taking a new job or breaking up, ending a relationship or moving homes or moving states or whatever it is, it's like, okay, what is the fear? What is the thing that is holding me back in this moment right now? And the same as the lily pad. Once you answer that question, the next question will pop up and you can ask that same question. What is the fear that's holding me back from moving forward in this moment right now?
Hmm. Okay. Can you give us a little bit of your impression of angels? How do you define the universal help? Now, I mean, there's ancestors, there's spirit guides, there's all sorts of loving beings, but do you have a particular take on angels you want to share?
I just think of angels more as like these beautiful light beings that are of a higher ascension that step in and help as needed. Once in a while, I'll hear a specific angel that has come in, like Archangel Michael. I don't even frankly really know what the role of each of them is, but sometimes I'll just hear like, I'm here. This is, Archangel Michael or Archangel Raphael. But it's just like this big, beautiful being of light.
Okay.
Whereas my spirit guides tend to have like a little bit more kind of spunk and personality. Like they tend to be like a little bit more human-ish, like if that makes sense. They're more, I don't know, they interact with me in a different way. It's like more playful sometimes.
I always say treetop level for spirit guides, a little more down to earth, where angels are more like dolphins and light beings are like whales. It just gets broader and broader.
Yes.
But there's a lot of flavor. The more you allow, the more you let go, the more detail, flavor, fun, humor, lots of humor. I'll put Archangel Michael's photo up. If folks at home, Americans love closing their eyes to listen, you're going to go right back to it. But for this one, if you could leave your eyes on the photo, catch an exotic smell. It could be flowers, the beach. Let Michael bring you something and then hear from him a reminder on something that might be a great topic or a reminder of your own either journey, expansion, lessons, and then something you can remind us all about.
Should I go ahead?
Yeah, absolutely.
What I heard was move and keep moving.
Okay, now explain that for us.
So one, the moving is actually a physical expression of feelings, emotions, and it's a way to move through fear, worry, anxiety, doubt. Like just move, get up and move, walk it, run it, dance it, move it out. And then I forget the second part of
Keep
what I
moving.
said. And keep moving, right? And don't stop. Like keep moving forward. Don't stop moving forward. Keep going. There's no need. Like you will not. There is no arrival. There's no destination. You're just going to continue to move and grow and evolve into, to circle back to joy, into this authentic truth that you are.
So walking a smoother path here, but getting stuck happens all the time. It's the rat race, thinking, spinning, again, worrying, fixating, and so on. Charlotte is another angel. She's been pulsing a little. Like, I know these are photos, but they can move. Historical photos can wink, smile. So if people could allow for this, you can put a hand out, treat her like a fireplace, feel what you can feel. But for a few New Zealanders, Europeans, she's even pulsed in the photo, like a blue, it'll be however it is for you. But here's something from Charlotte. She's got words to help people expand on their own path. So hear what you need to hear, share what you can share, and let us know when you're ready to go.
So be open and curious.
Ooh. Okay, now where have you been challenged on that over the year or so, or the last couple years? Or at the beginning of this whole thing?
I think at the beginning of this whole thing, for sure. And as I've progressed, I've had times where I've pulled back from it, and I've had times where I've jumped in deeper. I think that it's definitely been a push-pull for me. But I think that well, first of all, I don't know that I would have been allowed to shut it down because I think that there are many times where I kind of tried to like finagle my way out of it, and it was like, nope, like you really have a message to share with people. And I do believe that that message is about being open and curious. Because had I not been that, one, I think my life would have looked very different and very much like that muscling that I was talking about earlier. But I also think it has allowed for just this expansiveness and this playfulness and this wonder and joy and fun and excitement and all of the things that bring life meaning and connection and playfulness and fun. And if you're so closed off and you think you know everything, you're probably not listening to this podcast, but right?
I always like to ask, well, what are you allowing for? It doesn't have to be ditch the woo, ditch the angels, ditch unconditional love, compassion, more fun, sparkle in the universe. Just how's it going? What are you allowing for just in a black and white, sort of a linear, if you drew the accounting column thing on a page, are you even allowing for like random dinners, find extra finances coming in, extra fun? You go into the movies, you go into concerts. How are you challenging yourself for more growth? Are you traveling to other countries? Do you even have a passport? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing? Forget all the extra trappings and the fun of the universe where they kick it into gear and you've asked for help because there's no interference except for like some certain waypoints, in my opinion, for you've signed up for something. So you might get like
Right.
6 moments of total interference during your life, or 20 or 50 or who knows. But can you talk to us about that? No matter what, you're gonna get some help at some point getting alignment. Just it might have to
Right.
be more miserable for a little bit.
Right. So you're talking practicalities, like what are the fun things that I do daily?
Yeah, just
Type of thing.
yeah, any which way you want to slice this one.
Yeah, I think so spending time with my family, I think is huge. Like after this episode records, I'm going for a walk with my daughter and just being with the people I love. Travel is also you mentioned travel. Travel is huge for me. I love getting out of my space and seeing other spaces, other places, like being, sometimes when I'm on the road, I'm like, oh, this is like there's the frustrating part of travel too, like the missed connections, delayed flights, trains that are missed, things not working out, not speaking languages, like all of those little things, maybe crappy weather you definitely can't control. But that there, even in that is like, okay, how can I not people so much here? Right? How can I surrender a little bit more? And I think just trying to in every day really being purposeful about every choice that I make and how I'm spending that time. So just as an example today, right? I went to the grocery store and then I went to yoga. And in yoga, how I am present in my body and my awareness in my body of my body is so different than it used to be. I really feel like the practice for me is a spiritual practice. I get into myself. I'll cry on my mat when a certain song comes on. I'll listen to my body say, move, don't twist, don't turn, stick with this, stay in this. And I'll rather than just unconsciously pushing because the instructor, the guide said, the teacher, whatever you want to call them, said, next shape is X. It's like, well, wait, let me listen to my own body and hear what my body wants to do. That I'm not in the yoga class doing something totally different, but I am maybe holding spaces longer or moving in a different way because that's what I'm hearing I need. And I know, and to your point, like when you're not in that alignment and when you are not doing what you need on every level, whether it's a physical level, an emotional level, a spiritual level, you're gonna run up against that resistance more. It's gonna be harder.
I've got Sylvia Brown for you. This one, if you can leave your eyes on the photo, just hear her a little bit of advice, or again, a reminder for everybody. And then what are you getting from Sylvia?
She says, thanks.
And anything else?
Just thank you for making this palpable for people. Hopefully people who are listening feel like it's palpable
Nice.
that that I moved in the direction that I was guided, that I was, encouraged by certainly my Aunt Linda. I mean, there's no question that and I thank her. I thank her constantly and just express such deep gratitude for her pain and suffering that actually was what I really do believe allowed me to live in this way.
Okay, now you're a show host of a podcast. Can you describe it for us? I mean, life, death, and the space in between. Tell us a little bit about the show. Why should people be tuning in?
So I explore everything life, death. I say life, death, consciousness, and what it all means. I'm still trying to figure out what it all means. But we really explore life, afterlife, mediumship, near-death experiences, consciousness, how people can begin to open up to their own intuition. I talk about angels. I talk about spirit guides, past lives, meditation, channeling guides from other dimensions. I mean, you name it, I'll cover it, and I'll try to do it in a way that's really grounded. I call it grounded spirituality, because I want people to feel like sometimes in the space stuff can feel so woo-woo that it's not necessarily relatable. And I really want my listeners to feel like anything I'm talking about is something that is relatable, that they can take away and they can apply in their everyday life to help them shift, change, be more open, more curious, and experience the world with more awe and joy and alignment.
I love it. Now, how about big picture for mankind? And I'll give a couple quotes to help out. Charlotte, the angel that we just had up, who's blue colored in a photo where she's in light energy form. A reminder to folks, you can just look out your window and see angels full on. Now, good luck with that. Maybe you've just run a marathon and you've stretched out your brain so that your brain's tired and your heart's ready to go. I suggest that's probably the best way to really let go. We did this actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And if you want, you've mentioned some family members, and it keeps tugging at me. Maybe we'll take some steps having you look out in just a second. We'll do one angel first, if you're comfortable. But here's some big picture stuff for what's going on with mankind. The shift is upon mankind towards compassion and gentleness, compassion for all is life. And then I had, just sorry for doing this, I've got to find one more photo here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I'm getting there, and we'll see if I can get it. Here it is. Okay, compassion is here for all. A person need only be open to receive. A new consciousness emerges. Details are not so important. Love is love. And Jesus said that in 2014.
Mm.
And if anybody wants to screenshot it or freeze it and then read it because they like to go slow, fantastic. I always move fast. Forgive me.
Mm.
And there it is. What's your reaction to all that? I know there's always a talk about a shift, but I mean, there are shifts in consciousness. I'd argue it could happen 20 times in a single day.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that it is within us. You know, we're always looking out at everything external that's happening. And there's a lot out there. And again, don't bury your head in the sand, but look within you. How are you having compassion first of all, how are you having compassion for yourself? But then how are you also having compassion for someone else? And it doesn't need to be on a grand scale. But I think we're looking to try to fix these global problems without first having compassion for ourselves or for our neighbor. And it has to start there. We cannot solve these gigantic problems without recognizing and seeing ourself in the other and the other in us.
You don't hear consciousness, unconditional love, compassion, love, and awareness very often when it comes to big, complex issues out there on a lot of different fronts. And that's okay.
Mm.
It is what it is. But it is how you flow your energy. And that is something that everyone can appreciate more, allow for more, and have more fun with over time. With that, should we give it a go for full on seeing? Are you good with that?
Sure, but I want to say one thing. Real quick. I do think you do hear it if you look down at the minutia. If you drill down to the individual levels and you hear and listen to people talking to each other
You can hear.
versus you can hear that. But it's when we think on like a big global scale, like why aren't these leaders or whomever or whatever? It's like, no. That's not where this is going to change.
When a person's coming from their authentic presence, their inner self, doing their thing, and it's kind of artistic, or they're speaking their truth as they know it, and it resonates somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just hear from Joy. You've got this, so you get a little shot in the arm. It's not like we're live on a show, even though we're not live. It's taped. No pressure. But here you've got this. And then if you're looking at a rooftop out by a tree, turn your head and see Joy first. 28 years old, blonde, jean jacket, upscale dress underneath, no wings, then wings. But she showed up as a brunette for people at Omega who did this. No worries. Let us know when you've got it, because then let your either aunt or grandfather come in first next to her. Breathe, 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 let go. No try Yoda. Always try Archangel Michael. So extra breathing for folks at home. If you're just letting go, maybe you're just going to get an angel hug at home. And there's a million ways to get a hug. A yummy in the tummy, feels like you're wearing a cap, hand on the shoulder, wind in the room, goosebumps on the back of the neck, the right arm. I could keep going on all day. There's no one way for a little energy connection. And angels are in and around you. There's technically still learning from us, even though from our perspective, they're absolutely perfect and they're a lot of love. And Amy, are you getting that done? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you get your grandfather or aunt or both?
My grandfather actually, but
Okay.
not the grandfather, a different grandfather than the one that I referenced earlier.
And then with your permission, just here, you've got this, but this will be a trifecta. So your brain will be like, okay, fine. Joy, Charlotte, and Michael, are they saying it's okay to see your aunt? If so, turn your head, look out, see her waving hi, that red sweater or something perky. Got it?
Yeah, but they said I don't need to see her.
Oh, okay. You're done.
Is
No
that
worries.
okay?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay. What else? Harmony, peace, intercom, smoother path in life. What is this all about? We're all on a unique life journey. What's your inspirational reminder for the audience?
Connection and feeling like you matter to someone.
Hmm.
Those are my two kind of biggest takeaways, is that connection with someone and knowing that you matter in this world.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Tell us, where would you like to take us for one more little chapter of your life? Something you had to learn, something you had to finally let go of. Maybe you were sticking to the, clinical psychology textbook too much. You weren't trusting the other half of you.
I think a big thing, that's one, but I think another thing that I've had to learn is that not everybody is going to be on this path with me. And that it doesn't mean that I can't still love them and they can't be a huge part of my life, but they're just on a different path and their path isn't wrong and my path isn't wrong. My path is not better. My path is not more enlightened. It's just my path. And I think that in this spiritual space, often people can get into like this push pull of like, well, I'm doing these things, so I'm, this and that. And I just don't see it like that. I just see it as like, we're just on different paths, and that is okay. It is more than okay.
That was spoken like an inner, fearless, peaceful warrior that's owning it, stepping into your light. I think we talked about last time we talked.
Mm-hmm.
Could you name one more figure? It doesn't have to be an angel. It could be a Native American chief, Geronimo. It could be Mary, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, Kuan Yin,
Oh,
Einstein.
my favorite.
Ooh, remind me. I'm sorry. Oh,
Young.
yeah, yeah. Good, good, good. I was
Yeah.
going to try to say his name actually. Here we go. And he's fun, good humor. And then it was so weird. I brought him up. We were talking synchronicity in another show. And then I brought him up and I totally forgot that's like one of his things is
Yeah.
talking about
Oh, yeah.
synchronicity.
Yeah.
So maybe you could get like three big subject matters that you can go with afterwards that are in alignment with some of what he likes to remind us about.
Oh my God. He looks so funny today.
First of all, what's he have for the audience? Point blank, he says,
Universal consciousness.
ooh, and that's how we're all connected and how it all works out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Damn, nice. Okay,
Second is follow the synchronicities. They will lead you down the right path.
can you give us one personal example?
Oh my God, I could probably give you hundreds, but now I won't be able to think of any of them, right, in this
School,
moment.
professor, this.
Um, One synchronicity. Of course, I'm on the spot. And I know as soon as we get off, like 20 will come to my mind.
Here, I'll buy time for you. If you want, I'll show you energy against this background. It'll just be my aura, universal consciousness. I'll buy time, but hand off your face, just breathe in, allow. I'll tell one bad joke for folks, but I'll try not to use the one that I use all the time. I'll do Bert and Ernie Sesame Street. Nobody needs to remember who Bert and Ernie are. It doesn't matter. Bert offers Ernie ice cream. What's Ernie say? He says, "Sure, Bert." See a little bit of light between my fingers, a filament of light. Green, yellow, gold, white, blue. What color do you see between my fingers?
Like a pinkish red.
Yay. Okay, I'm not crazy. You're not crazy at home. People, blue sky is number one. Shut off TV, black sweatshirt, black folder. But if you're cocky, confident, you've been doing this stuff forever, go ahead and just anything works. Your dog. You can see the light on your dog, the trees. I'm going to make the argument that everything's alive. Everything talks. Good luck with that. Only on Tuesdays, third Tuesday of every month, when you actually let go or remember to let go. Okay, so talk to us either about synchronicity, just asking for it. How about that? How the universe is ready to respond day and night.
I have a perfect one.
Okay.
That is so perfect for this podcast. So my friend's husband was dying several years ago of, I know, of a brain tumor. It was terrible. I had been friends with her since I had met her right around the time he was diagnosed. And I was just leaving his house. I was driving home. Obviously, I was like very beside myself with everything. And just kind of talking, like I do in the car. Sometimes I'll just talk to my aunt or to whomever and be like, help me understand this. How do I make sense of this? Right. Like I'm grieving. And he hadn't died yet, but he was very, very near to death. And literally in front of me pulls a car with the license plate that says angels see you.
Oh my God. I love it. Okay. We're going to wrap this up. I'll do a couple more quotes. We'll see what we can generate for responses. Think about self-appreciation, allowing, gratitude. What else? Just love. There's so many vibrational levels, trillion.
Mm-hmm.
And just the more open you stay, the more you flow, experience like life, everything is around you. It's happening. I got it. Mary once said, and by that I mean like 2014 or so, the big Mary, love's a constant. Open your eyes to see love. Now, our eyes are shut all the time. Every time we're on an iPhone, not paying attention, you could be on the iPhone for something totally wonderful. But a lot of times we're just checked out. Every time we're checked out, we're kind of missing the bigger flows or within us, what we could be feeling. I'll throw in two quotes randomly to see what we spark. It takes half your life before you discover life itself as a do-it-yourself project. Napoleon Hill. And then
that's a great one.
A loving heart is the truest wisdom. Dickens.
I like the do-it-yourself project. And I think it goes perfectly, like, not to keep going back to this, but I do think it goes right back to we all have we all know within us what we need to do. But we are the only ones who can do it.
Everyone watching, you're the only person who can do the figuring out. How about that? No one else can do your figuring out for you. They can help.
They can help you. Right. They can show you, they can reflect to you, they can even tell you. Right. But they can't do it for you.
Only you can take your own steps. They can hand you a flashlight for the puzzle over there on the table.
You can't hire this one out, right? This isn't.
That's a good one. You can't get the good contractor to take the steps for you. Oh
no.
Well, Dr. Amy Robbins, I'm super happy to have had you on the show. This has been Angels, Positivity, and Love. Can you just give us 1-2 spots that people should check you out? We're going to have this below the video and all the details, but is there a particular area you want to draw people's attention to? It may also just be another book by somebody out there, or a movie that you love, or just something, or your favorite show guest that you've had on in the last couple of years. what would you want to steer people to in particular for them to have a little more insight?
Well, I'd love for people to listen to my podcast, Life, Death, and the Space Between. On my website, if you want to be subscribed to my newsletter, you can get a soul wisdom workbook, which are my own channeled insights when I've sat in meditation. What's come to me in those meditations are like so profound. Sometimes I read it and I'm like, this is so clearly not my words, that there's got to be something greater out there. And you can download that and then use it as prompts for yourself. And then if you do want to connect with me, Instagram's the best place to do it, at Dr. Amy Robbins. That's where I'm the most active. Although I do have Facebook, I am never on it. So you're going to be very annoyed if you try to message me and I never respond, because I won't. So those are the best places to find me. And please reach out. I love connecting with people. I love hearing people's stories and just how they're continuing to grow and expand their consciousness, because I believe that's what you and I are both here to do.
Oh, Amy, well, thank you again for being on the show. I am super excited to have met you. I'm just honored to have you on the show.
Me too. Thank you so much. This was wonderful. And thank you so much for the amazing reading that we did together before, and really kind of opening me up to how this all works. It's so cool. And I've been having some fun playing with it since you and I last spoke.
Oh, thank you again.